Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I move to delete from the town officials business section of the agenda the review of the FY 2024 town audit, which shall be addressed at the next regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move to delete from the new business section of the agenda consideration of the annual PFAS groundwater sampling plan for the former septic fields, which shall be addressed after Agency of Natural Resources final review of the 2024 plan.
Second, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, minutes approval, meeting of 1/6/2025.
I move to approve the minutes of the select board meetings of January 6, 2025 and January 13, 2025.
Second.
6 and 13th on there.
So you should have, let me
Yeah, I thought I had,
amend
I
that.
thought I
Minutes approval,
amended the agenda.
1/6/2025 and 1/13/2025.
Yeah, it's on the motion, but not on the agenda.
I'll amend that.
my mistake.
I'll amend item 3. Anyone can make that motion today?
Sure. I move to approve the minutes of select board meetings of January 6, 2025 and January 13, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, select board pay orders.
I move to approve the pay orders for payroll and accounts payable.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 5 is announcements and correspondence.
Don't forget to register your dog.
Okay.
Registration is open,
When's it due?
April 1st.
April 1st.
My only announcements are that I'll be on vacation the first week of February. We have a meeting that I'll do the prep for that. In your meeting packet, FYI, we got just a few things. One is the notice of intent to dismiss an Act 250 land use permit, and that had to do with Blue Flame Gas. And that's actually in Land Grove, but it's next door to the school. And then we have Green Mountain Power, once again looking to extend the life of their permit to upgrade the power station, which will go under the mountain. No, excuse me, on Thompson Road. And then lastly, the December 24 Sheriff's Office report. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Item 6, visitors and concerned citizens. Anyone? Seeing no hands? Let's move on. Item 7, town official business. 7A, discuss town administrator training, transition planning with the VLCT representative.
This is Kathleen Ramsey from VLCT.
I'm Kathleen with the
Hi, Kathleen. Nice to meet you.
Whatever you'd like, whatever works best.
So thank you for having me. In addition to the work I do at VLCT, developing materials and training materials, materials for the website, responding to all sorts of town administrator, town manager questions. I had an idea about reaching out to small towns to help them onboard and retain town administrators. And you are my first subject, and I'd like to propose a pilot project to help you with the transition. And I think it will vary depending on who you hire and the experience they have as to how much, if any, support they require. I see myself being a resource to your new town administrator, and in addition to Shane, who'll be staying on in a part-time capacity. So that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I would think it's definitely going to be useful for us. I mean, it's hard to find someone who had the experience that Shane did coming into the job.
So I have worked with people without town management experience in the past in several of the towns where I worked, and I transitioned to other towns, and they were very successful with some support and the ability to give someone a call if they had any questions.
Did you find any specific skills they had before really aided with them becoming the town manager?
Organization was really helpful. I have really worked with people from, one was an attorney, one was an administrative assistant at a big company, and another was also an administrative assistant at a big company. So you really can take a diverse background, but just an interest in the community and a commitment and a lot of hard work.
That's for sure.
One thing that Kathleen brings with her is years of experience in Middlebury as their town manager. So, while I have certain ways of doing things that I think are good, she can certainly bring a wealth of knowledge and information that could, do things even better. So I think she'd be a great resource for the town.
Thank you, Shane. I have honed my skills over 35 years, working in Heinsberg, Pittsford, Killington, and Middlebury, each time bringing what I had with me and taking the different uniqueness from the community, things that they were doing well. Let's build on those to go forward.
Being that this is kind of a pilot program, like you're here now, obviously, and you probably know that we're interviewing this week, and is that timing like just right, or are we ahead?
I think that's perfect. So it would be helpful if we regroup after you make the selection and talk further about the specific things that are needed. And I'll also talk with the person you hire and see what their background is and how I could best help them.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Sounds great to me.
It's going to be a huge help finding and creating the right person for the job to take over after Shane leaves. It's never easy.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your work so far. You're almost there.
And then we get it.
Thank you.
Well, long night ahead of us. Thursday, I should say.
Right.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll probably stay along. One thing of, just to keep my hand on the pulse of what's going on in communities. I like to see what's going on in your town.
Of course.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Right, 7B, Mountain Town Draft Director, agreement for bus services for Nordic Ski Program.
Yeah, technically, might have gotten lost in the emails, but there was an updated one, just barely. I asked Sue if she could include a price, because I figured that was going to come up in the conversation. So the only edit here is that it says $55 for each, or whatever they end up charging, it will be less than that. So we had some number presented.
55 for each, what?
So it's for each day. So the contract, the agreement is that BRSU will allow us to use and could provide a driver to transport students from Floodbrook to either Wild Wings on Friday or Viking Nordic on Mondays. And families are responsible for picking them up, so it's just a one-way. But it's something that has happened in the past and is really, really beneficial, not just for the kids or the families, because they're transported right after school, tough for families to be available then, as well as a lot of these places do not have a ton of parking, so we were dropping 120 kids on them. Having a lot of them in one giant vehicle is very helpful. So this is just kind of a step as we are taking over some of the expenses that West River has been, since we've taken in the registration revenue. This is part of the operational costs. But I knew it was an agreement, so needed to present it to all you.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to submit evidence.
And then, what insurance?
What's that?
What's the insurance requirements?
It's all BRSU. We're just, it even says down below there in the last paragraph that they operate at the levels they do. Just like the kids taking the bus to school.
In the recommended motions, I'd put in there something about the cost, because the previous person did not have anything on that. And I didn't know if you wanted the town attorney to look at it.
You think we need the town attorney?
This,
It's pretty standard for BRSU. I don't know if we need the town attorney to look it over. What do you guys thoughts?
I think it'd be fine. They used to do this when I was a kid,
Yeah.
from Flipbrook to these places. Oh, we have a question.
Speaking of, like, as a parent, the service would be invaluable.
Yeah, I used to get bused from school to the Wild Wings, so I don't think it,
I think being from the BRSU, I don't see the need for the town attorney.
yeah, especially if their insurance is covered.
Yeah,
This
their
might be a
insurance is
stupid
covered.
question, but is it an actual school, one of the school buses? And it's,
Yep.
Yeah.
Ryan Komar, so that is
Excuse me.
one of the regular bus drivers, is also driving one of the teachers, Cliff Damaris, who also chips in for the school. Also, he's one of the main drivers.
right, so the regular busing routine is the same, it's just the location and purpose that's different.
It says they're gonna,
It's kind of an extra run on those days, is my understanding, because it's the same time that the regular buses leave. But Cliff isn't typically one of the regular bus drivers,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it says right here they're gonna comply with all state, federal statutes, and they'll give us a copy of his certificate of insurance if needed, so I don't see a reason for, I think I should look over it.
I think we're fine.
Is it a school program? It's not a school program, is it?
Which part?
The skiing
The
is
Nordic?
run, the
Yeah.
Nordic is run by
Nordic's
them.
MTR,
Okay,
and we're providing the skiing.
yeah.
This is just a service that West River has signed on, hired a service from BRSU to transport the kids.
So it's limited to students?
Just the Nordic kids. It's not a regular bus route. It's just Nordic.
Yeah.
It's something we have done, sounds like it's been done in the past for soccer as well. And it's something we'd look into again, so.
Sounds good.
I'll make the motion. I move to accept the transportation service agreement between the town and the Bennington Rutland Supervisory Union related to the transportation of students for recreational Nordic skiing, subject to confirmation of costs associated with the service, and review of the agreement by the town attorney, and authorize the Mountain Town's recreation director to sign the agreement on behalf of the town.
I think you can take the subject.
Take that part
Yeah,
out.
that's why I put those in brackets,
Okay.
just,
Fair with that. And I'll,
Because we know the cost too, right? We're
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
$55 per trip, and we're skipping the,
right. And authorize the town's mountain recreation director to sign the agreement on behalf of the town.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Parents, thank you too.
7C, Mountain Town Director, changes to job description.
This is yeah, this is the referee stuff, right? Yeah, it looked fine to me when I read it.
There's two separate ones. First one is for the Parks maintenance employee, that's on page 24 of 53. That's to add just a couple of pieces of information. It's a reliable vehicle and valid driver's license, including adding lawn mowing and landscaping to the job descriptions. Is that right?
Right.
And then on the other is the, if you go to page 26 of 53, that's where we added this language I came up with, adding, authorizing Liam to hire and dismiss referees, event monitors, umpires, and other temporary and seasonal employees at compensation rates approved by the select board and in keeping with the town's personnel policy, and shall report any such authorized activities to the select board at its next regular meeting. I do say, in regard to recreation activities only, I think, Liam, you had suggested that maybe parks should be added to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining as soon as we put that limitation on it this summer, we'll have some event where I would like to have a part-time helper working concession. You know, I'm just imagining that we'd have to change it again, but,
Yep.
you know, if you want to do that, we can change it later. But
I'm fine with changing it now.
And, you know, Tina's going to keep me in check, because the more people I hire, the more work I make for her, so please don't worry that I'm going to be going around just hiring left and right.
So you would change the language would be with regard to parks and
Under
recreation
supervision of
activities
the
only.
town treasurer.
Anyone care to make that motion and just state with the amendment? For the amended job description?
Changes in the amendments? Is that redundant?
Shane, when was the conversation happen about setting rates? Would that be at a future date?
Should be on the next select board meeting if you have recommended rates.
Okay. I haven't went out, so.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, timing-wise, does February 3rd work for you?
Over as far as paying folks?
No, for the next meeting.
The next meeting is when they would set those rates.
As far as
What was, where was the sentence about adding
Just
parks? Is that in the,
with regard to parks and recreation activities. See in the blue, oh no,
it's
oh, I
not in
didn't
the
do.
motion, but.
I had a more generalized motion, and I'll just insert it.
Okay.
We'll make sure the minutes reflect that it would be adding parks.
I see. I wanted to make sure it wasn't part of the recommended motion that was changed.
Was the next meeting all right?
yes.
Go ahead with that motion.
I move to accept the changes and amendments as discussed to the job descriptions for Parks Maintenance Employee and Mountain Towns Recreation Director, the latter being given limited authority to hire and dismiss certain temporary and/or seasonal employees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7D, Local Cannabis Control Commission, consider Vermont Cannabis Control Board permit S0000111054, the retail cannabis establishment renewal on parcel number 1002007.000.
This is the retail store on
North
North
Main
Main
Street.
Street, yeah.
Pretty-
As far as Will indicated that there were no violations, and I guess they have a new sign permit that they've just pulled. So he had no issues.
I'll make the motion. I move to grant a local control license renewal to Kelly Deella Laskin to operate a retail cannabis operation on property located at parcel number 102.007.000, subject to compliance with and adherence to all the town of Londonderry ordinances, regulations, and bylaws at all times.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 8 is transfer station solid waste management. 8A's updates. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait a little longer for the vending machine to be up and running. We had to get new cards printed on a heavier stock. The old ones fluttered around too much and might go back in. New ones seem to work just fine. So that is the holdup now, unfortunately, but we're getting there. We're getting closer. That's the only update I have.
And they're available at the town clerk's office
Yes.
until then,
Yes.
right?
They're still
Always.
available
They always have
at
been
all
and
the
always
town
will
clerks'
be.
Right, but that's the only location now.
Yeah,
Right.
no, the other town offices have them too.
All town offices, plus online on the Londonderry website.
Just not the hardware store, I guess.
Yes.
is the only- Right, okay.
Thank you. Item 9, roads and bridges, 9A's updates.
I think there was one discussion maybe coming up about the signs on Brophy Lane maybe, but I saw in the notes that that was deferred to this meeting, but Josh
Oh,
isn't
shoot.
here.
I forgot to put it on the agenda.
Well, Josh isn't here anyway.
He isn't
so-
here anyway.
Thank goodness.
Right.
Now it is deferred to the next meeting. Put that on the next.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, I apologize for that.
Oh, no.
That's okay. It wasn't meant to be.
Too many, yeah, too many things.
One other thing, I guess, Josh is getting pricing on a new truck, a replacement truck. And he's gonna have an international priced in a 6-wheel and tandem. And I think he was asking about maybe doing sole
Sole source,
pricing, just because
they all come from the same place.
they all are
Yeah.
built by the same company,
Yeah.
Allegiance, or Allegiant, I guess is the name. And also for consistency with the equipment that we have,
Yeah.
parts will be interchangeable and stuff like that, so.
Well, we had, prior meetings, we had talked about changing the purchasing policy for the road crew to just get into the machine you want.
Yeah,
Right, and I think,
Because they're all different.
Was he checking with the state contract? Because the state may have a perfectly good contract for this type of truck.
I'd have to ask, I'm not sure.
State pricing is just fine.
Right, yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
But yeah, we have had that discussion because putting it out to bid when you got other companies all bidding on the same thing, it's never.
but they're not always the same thing.
It ends up
Yeah.
never being the same because it's a
Yeah.
different, each one makes a different product. And,
Yeah. So for
I
road crew,
think
it
that's
kind
a
of
challenge.
makes more sense to go with sole source.
And it ends up being a custom
Most
truck
things.
too, because you order how it is being built, and
Yeah.
that's really hard to do from company to company and have it read the same, so
Yeah.
it's hard to compare anyway, so. There was one other thing I was gonna mention, and I can't think of it right now, but if it comes to me, I will.
Alright. We'll move on to 9B, annual V-Trans certificate of highway mileage. This is something we just do every year.
Yeah, we've had changes the last 2 years, but this past year we didn't have any changes.
It just came to me what I was forgetting. I meant to ask about advertising the road crew position, if we're still,
Still out there.
It's posted, but we're not hitting the newspaper every week.
right, okay.
If you want me to do it, I'll do it.
I mean, just kind of bringing it up again, because we're not really getting,
All right, I mean, Front Porch Forum is free, but that's a one-day hit. We could always,
Right.
put it in the weekly newspapers.
I wonder if this time of year, you know, if there's any other businesses doing layoffs or something, that somebody might become available this time of year. So maybe it's worth another round, but just resurfacing that old topic.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
I'll take care of that.
Do another, what, 2 weeks or so? See what happens.
It's worth a shot, I think.
And then we can really start going again come spring.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, the change of season seems to be a good time, you know, and if there's any layoffs or in the spring when somebody decides they want to do something different, so. Thank you. for-
And now we'll go back to 9D, annual V-Trans certificate of highway mileage. As Shane was saying, there's no change this year.
Yeah, well, we didn't go forward with the
Rest Haven.
Rest Haven. Yeah, that's still out there. After a certain number of days, that board motion to hold a hearing on that dies.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that one. I wonder where
But I think
we're at.
the idea was to let it die, but we just haven't talked much about that at all.
Yeah. I think we came to a realization that it didn't benefit anyone to make the change
Right.
because all the property that was in question is just beyond it.
Mhm.
So it didn't help or hinder.
Right. It would actually be tough to write up the findings of fact on it as well. You know, it has to be a benefit to the community, and it's not a tremendous benefit to the community to do that.
Yeah, agreed.
I would move to approve the annual V-Trans certificate of highway mileage indicating no changes from the previous year and authorize the select board chair to execute it on behalf of the board per 24 VSA section 1141.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I guess I'll do both those. 9C, discuss special weight limits for highways and bridges.
I bring this up every year in that the board is authorized to set special weight limits, and we tend not to do that. And so if there's any, the board ever has a change of mind on that, this is the time to do it each year. And there's if you look at the underlined information on pages 33 and 34, you can do that, for both roads and bridges.
Unless you feel like anything's changed to it, that we need to do it, I don't see the reason.
No, I think that having the overweight permits applied for and recorded annually, I think that's kind of our opportunity to speak with people that are going to be using our roads, the trucking companies and excavation companies and stuff. So I think we're covering our bases without posting.
All right, we'll move on to 9D, Spring Hill Road project. Consider engineering contract amendment.
This project has been going on for a long, long time. And it's one of those things where, by virtue of accepting the funding, I'm forgetting the name of it, not MTAP funding, but the TAP funding we got from V-Trans of $350,000, but it comes with all kinds of requirements that normal state funding doesn't require. So this is a federal pass-through. So the engineering requirements are just unbelievable. And good news is we're about to get into the right-of-way process. I've contacted the property owners, and they're both very gung-ho about the project and are not seeking any compensation for the temporary or permanent easements. Anyway, it's been taking so long, and because of those increased requirements, including these V-Trans amending the, it's in the letter, but it's,
2024.
yeah, they required us to go forward with 2024 construction specifications, and we started the project in '22. Long story short, it's an extra almost $18,000 in cost, and plus, each year, the company also increases its rates, as, which is standard. So anyway, it's a second amendment to the contract, but the good news is that all of the soft costs on this, the engineering costs, are being covered by a V-Trans structures grant of $175,000. So it's all being covered.
Separate from the 350.
Yeah, well, we're treating them differently. The structures grant is taking care of all the soft costs. The TAP grant's taking care of all the hard costs. But we are going to need to borrow money at some point when this project does go out to bid.
Taking care of half the.
What's that?
Taking care of half the hard costs.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if we hadn't, if you do it on your own, sometimes it's a lot cheaper. But also, we almost certainly have missed this construction season, this coming, because to order up the box culvert it's a 20-foot box culvert, which is huge.
20 by 70 or something.
It's
when
really,
fully
really big,
assembled.
and we're never going to get that in time and meet the requirements for construction in the stream, so we're looking at the following year, unfortunately. Now, we did already, so I've already contacted Megan Brunk from V-Trans to talk about extending the structures grant, which we've already extended. So she was amenable to that. Obviously, we would have to do all kinds of verifications of reasons, and the two different departments at V-Trans will work together. But it's a long project and we, just hopefully it won't get washed out again with another flood.
Our temporary culvert that's been repaired.
Yeah,
Temporary.
hopefully it'll hold, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But anyway, so I recommend authorizing the second amendment.
I would move to approve amendment number 2 of the September 21st, 2022 contract with Hoyle Tanner and Associates Incorporated related to permanent replacement of culvert number 12 on Spring Hill Road at Eddy Brook, and to authorize the town administrator to execute any documents necessary for the contractor to continue to provide the necessary services. The original contract for this project was authorized by the Select Board on September 12th, 2022, and amendment number 1 was authorized on August 21st, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Move on to item 10, old business. 10A, review and approve annual town meeting warrant.
You have the markup, which is the most recent version.
Over here.
Is there a copy of that over there?
If there's any more meeting packets,
It's in
there would be. The only difference between this and what you saw at the last meeting is we realized that the South Londonderry Library trustee for a term of 3 years needs to be added. So that was added. Did you find one, Melissa?
I did, thank
Great.
you.
Good. And we moved from Article 16 to Article 12, raising and appropriating $20,000 for the Pingree Park Reserve Fund. The feeling was we should move that up with all the other reserve fund discussions. And then really the only thing outstanding is now, which is called Article 15, the issue of what percentage to insert into the percent of revenues generated by the local option tax to be deposited into the Community Economic Improvement Reserve Fund. On page 41 of the meeting packet is a letter from Patty Eisenhower on behalf of the Housing Commission, and she indicates that the Housing Commission, I'll quote, advocates that the Select Board amend Article 14, which is now 15, to allow 50% of revenues generated by local option taxes to be deposited into the reserve fund. So that's the number that they're recommending.
In comparison to that recommendation, wasn't there a number of like 15% mentioned by, I can't remember if it was of the total revenues or if it was going to be specifically just for housing. Wasn't there a smaller number recommended?
There was a lot of different discussions about what it would be, and the board decided that this was the format of that article, and the only question was, what's that percentage? And previous discussion was 100% at the meeting, and then the commission went back, as far as I know, and suggested now that it's 50%. Heather has her hand up.
50% of the local options tax.
Yes, would go into, not housing, it would go into the Community Economic Improvement Reserve, but a previous article would allow housing to be included in that reserve fund as a...
I think that's what I might be confusing, is the difference between the local option tax and the entire reserve fund.
Right now, the local option taxes are only, are used to
Offset the general.
yeah, offset taxes, so they just come in as revenue.
What is, so I know this goes into the general fund, what is the current total lot tax for fiscal year, approximately?
We haven't had a full fiscal year.
Yeah.
What have you had so far?
We've had one quarter, which was $10,000.
Well, that's
Yeah.
for,
Oh,
that's
for the rooms and meals,
that's the rooms and meals
yeah,
only.
I think we had 50.
No, rooms only. So we have meals and alcohol prior?
I
I think
don't
we
know.
had
I
a
can't
hard
remember
time
which we had
Yeah, I know.
first.
Meals and alcohol was approved at the last
Two.
meeting, March. So the fiscal year would have begun July 1.
Yeah,
So we have 6, almost 7 months.
So what's the 6 months?
Yeah, rooms we had before.
Yeah, but it takes them a while to figure the numbers, and
Yeah.
so even though we've gone through two quarters, I don't even know if we've received the
we haven't.
calculations yet.
We got the first quarter, which was a little over $10,000.
The reason I'm asking is just if there's an anticipation, just to give perspective. So let's say it was $30,000 a year. It would affect our tax base based on the numbers in the town plan by less than $1. If your home was assessed, if your home was assessed at $200,000, it would affect your tax rate by like $25 if it was $30,000. So like, just for perspective on making decisions, right? Like, does it just go into a general bucket that saves folks, $25 a year? Or does it go to like maybe a social good that would make a bigger impact? That was just why I was wondering specifically what the projection was and divided by the tax rate, what that looks like. But I understand that.
Yeah.
And so people report on a quarterly basis, but then we don't get the data until the following month after they've closed their quarter, so it's,
And they don't segregate meals,
Yeah,
rooms, and
they just give you a
all
lump
that.
sum.
There's no way to figure out.
Yeah,
Because if it's not going to make a significant impact to the general fund, it makes sense to maybe like, let's think of a better way to use these funds. I don't need to see the dollar, but if it was significant, then that's like another consideration for another day.
Forget what we projected, what was it, 50 or 70?
I
Should be in
think
the
we did
budget.
50. We did 30 for this year and 50 we budgeted 50 for the coming year.
That's like
That's- That's a penny, a 50,000 is a penny on the tax rate.
Yeah, that's.
Not as, every penny counts.
Just a different perspective.
Yeah,
Nancy from the Housing Commission. I do have a couple of points that I'd just like to read off if I could, if it helps clarify it all. Sort of to your point, the forecast for 25-26 is $50,000 in the LOT revenue. Allocating 50% or $25,000 to the Community Economic Improvement Fund represents 1% of the proposed town budget, or less than 1% of taxes needed to offset proposed appropriations. The Select Board requested the Housing Commission provide some examples of how a portion of the reserve fund might be used for housing programs. While the fund use wouldn't be exclusively for housing, an example would be $10,000 could be utilized as matching funds for an accessory dwelling, $10,000 in a down payment assistance program, $10,000 to incentivize a homeowner to convert a short-term rental into a long-term rental, or to initiate a home share or lease to locals program.
I would say it'd be very helpful to have that information town meeting to do that too, please.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is helpful because I remember the previous conversation we had about it. We talked about the percentage and then we sort of looked at it from the other perspective, like what would a sort of a anticipated needed dollar amount be? And so we were saying if it was, if it was the whole 50,000, I mean, is that too much or not enough? Or, so that is helpful to have some different ways to spend it and not necessarily overfund it or underfund it at the same time.
Kind of on that note, and I apologize if I'm just not understanding the scenario. Typically, wouldn't folks just ask for a set amount for their budget versus a percentage of this potential income? Because then that's going to flux every year.
It's going to be a nightmare
Wouldn't
for
that be
me.
better for them to just
Yeah.
know what they need and ask for that?
I think that was kind of my perspective on, talking about like what is the number that you need, because we're kind of, it's a percentage of an unknown number and it may or may not be enough year to year, so.
It's going to be a nightmare for me to try to figure it out and how to. I mean, it's also going to be a nightmare for budgeting too.
Yeah, it's simple and straightforward. When it comes in, it just goes to the general fund. It's a revenue line, and if any department is interested in using some, they just budget the way it is budget. And we could ask to have it entirely offset. But
Can
I
you
mean,
repeat
the
that?
thing is also that, if I could, just that if the reserve fund can be used for any number of things. We have a planning grant we're trying to cash out of right now, and there's a local match. So that local match could, and normally would, come from a reserve fund like this. There's all kinds of uses of that.
So the general fund, how would one go about requesting funds from the general fund to go towards something else?
It's a budget request.
How would a committee or an organization go about requesting money from the general fund to go towards something else? Just talk me through the process.
Appropriation?
Well,
They
the
would-
planning commission has a budget, and in their budget, they can have an expense for a planning grant, and we could have revenue that offsets it. So the housing commission could have a
The Housing
budget.
Commission has a budget.
Yeah, they could do it through the budget.
So if something came up after the budget was written, or is there a dollar amount that doesn't need a vote on if they, is it $10,000, is it $100,000? Like, when do you have to get voter approval? Never?
Well,
I don't-
the board can amend the budget at any time. What gets voted on is the bottom line number for expenses.
So
And
things
they
can
can
get
change,
moved around.
they can move budget lines as necessary. with a vote, and you have to be voted on.
What's the number that you are comfortable with moving the budget lines? Without feeling like pressure from the community to... It's just a hypothetical question.
And I'm not sure that this accurately answers, but I mean, I support a budget number for this purpose, the housing committee purpose. I'm not sure how the percentage of an unknown number really serves what you're doing. And maybe the budget, maybe we come up with a number, and that's a better way to just set a budget for it.
And yes, Jane, but just if I may, Tom, go directly here. An article like this at town meeting makes me a little bit nervous. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the Housing Commission, I'm speaking as a citizen. So an article like that at town meeting makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So my question is, asking if they decided to not do the article and just felt comfortable coming to you and asking you for a dollar amount, is that likely that that would happen and that would save a lot of heartache? It's just a question.
Yeah, I'd probably say,
I'd be comfortable with it.
I think the
Unfortunately,
percentage is confusing.
we're at the day we have to approve the warning and the budget.
Understood.
Well, one of the issues, though, is if, say, the Housing Commission asks for $5,000 for whatever it is, you've got to use that by June 30th, otherwise it goes away. If it ends up in the reserve fund, that doesn't lapse at the end of the year, so it's greater flexibility on usage of those reserve funds, as opposed to a budgeted fund.
So I guess an easier way.
So I guess I'm getting confused, I'm sorry, Tom. I'm getting confused. You say reserve fund, I said general fund.
Different animals.
Yeah.
So this money that the Housing Commission is asking for goes into the reserve fund or goes into the general fund?
They want it to go to the reserve fund.
Okay, and the board makes decisions on where the reserve fund spends their money.
Yes, and it can be on housing, it can be on anything under
Housing
the...
would be added to it.
Yeah, housing would be added to right now, under Article 13, the purpose for the Community Economic Improvement Reserve Fund is, that article says to add housing to the purpose of the fund, which is at present to support municipal efforts to plan, promote, and implement economic recovery, revitalization, and development efforts in Londonderry. So housing would be added to that list.
If the voters approve that.
Of course.
Yes.
So if that gets approved, then you get to Article 15, and then you determine the percentage.
Yes, I just wanted to understand the mechanics of it, so I appreciate it.
I suppose somebody could vote to make it a dollar amount at town meeting.
I don't know if that would be allowed by Doug, because that would probably change it would change the article too much. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I feel like we'll know
Something we can look
a
into.
more solid dollar amount once we have a little history,
Yeah,
which we just
yeah, we don't have enough history to know.
unfortunately, it's coming down to the last minute, but it sounds like the easiest thing we do. We take out the percentage altogether, have housing put into the reserve fund, and then just add money
To the reserve
to
fund.
the reserve fund that more than the 5,000.
Mhm.
That sounds like the easiest, simple way to do it.
Well,
Well, the voters have to add it to the reserve fund.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
You take out this whole Article 15, that's gone. You ask them to put housing into that reserve fund. And then, instead of a percentage, you add on,
Reserve fund.
say, you say 25,000 now into the reserve fund. And that can be offset due to
Well, it's set up that way already.
no, without the percentage,
no, you
just,
just take that percentage out.
I understand,
Yeah.
if Article 15 fails, then you go to Article 16. It says, in the event that Article 15 is in the negative, then shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of 5,000 to be deposited, and that 5,000 to be changed.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you take out the percentage altogether, eliminate Article 15,
and just put a dollar amount.
and just put a bigger dollar amount into
But-
that reserve fund.
What if,
Would be clean.
what if the other article fails where you add housing?
Yeah, that's a good point,
That's,
too.
yeah,
This is not a great one.
no.
I have it.
Why not all of is there like a pain point there? It doesn't really impact the tax rate at all. I mean, even if it was $200,000 that you were getting and you're not going anywhere close to that, it's a reserve fund that you all control anyway. Why is it a dollar amount or a percent? Like, why doesn't it all go there? And then if you find that it's not working, you can just change it. Like, is there, I guess I'm wondering what's,
Well, last meeting, the housing commission asked for 100%, and this meeting, they're asking for 50, so you'd have to ask them.
yeah, like,
Well, we certainly got the sense that we didn't feel that you all thought it was going to fly, and Tina was complaining about.
it'd be one thing if it like impacted the tax base. If I would see that money on my tax bill, but I'm not gonna, like a penny, that's what we're talking about. It's less than a penny, I think, too, if it were 50,000. But based on the numbers from 2023, so maybe they're wrong, but it's just, it seems like when you think about the intention, it seems like it belongs in the reserve fund, in my opinion.
I think if I recall a previous conversation here with all of us, there was some discussion about the fact that we really don't know how the money's going to be spent. So we really don't know how much it really needs to be. And then it was like, well, maybe it's just a good faith motion to get something started. And if that's the case, if that's all this is and it's eventually going to change, then maybe it doesn't matter. But I think if we, the more we know about it, that if we can get it right the first time, then we don't have to make the change. So, I mean, I guess the question previously was, like, what is the number and what might it be spent on? And I think that the answer was like, it's all still developing. So.
Fund, and then it would have to be spent on what was defined as for that fund, right?
Yeah.
And they'd have to ask for it anyway.
That's why they're asking to put housing into this fund.
Right, and
Right.
that's like, right, that everyone seems to agree that that's fine.
Yep.
So wouldn't the second part of that, would you put it all in there? And to the other things that are defined by that fund, that you just read, right?
You can ask for 100%. Or,
It's just, it's so much cleaner.
or we just get rid of the whole percentage and we just add, say, $20,000 into that fund. You add the housing into that fund, you add 20,000, so now you add more.
Well, I guess that goes back to like, what is the intention? And, yes, but it seems messy.
Yeah, I think the way that you're talking about it now, Tom, does that go from, instead of going into the general fund, it would go into here?
We're just putting money into that reserve fund and then.
And then you can ask for.
1% still
Yeah.
going to offset taxes, which is part of the 20,000 we're putting into the reserve fund.
I'm assuming that the thought process here is that the 1% has not been felt and utilized tremendously from the townspeople, and they're not going to miss it so much if you take sort of a part of what they would normally. I realize it's the same amount of money, but I think it has a different effect to the taxpayer if it's coming from the sort of nebulous thing instead of the one that, I mean, I'm thinking that that's an angle we're coming at.
And we keep saying it's going to offset our taxes, but it's at that amount, it's really not doing anything. It's not offsetting.
I think it comes down to an individual's perspective, which is why we have our town meeting about it. Everybody votes. If somebody wants to see it in the general fund, offsetting taxes first, that gives them comfort, and then the money from the general fund is spent, on things that they vote for.
So maybe
So it
next
goes
year-
in, they see it go in, offset, and then you vote to spend it. If you take it out ahead of that, I mean, it just takes the choice away from people that like to see it the way that we said it was going to be originally spent.
So if the housing commission is asking for this potential 25,000 is going into a slurry here. It's not really the housing commission is instigating it, but it's not our money. it's.
It's still
Yeah.
in the community economic improvement.
No matter what, how much of this 1% or however you do it, it's still, that fund is the same way. It's not directly for housing.
Right, I'm just saying, if we're naming it, how, it's like the Housing Commission is giving it, I just wanted to be aware that we just are bringing up the subject, that we think that this is smart.
Melissa?
I think the most important question to ask is, on town meeting day, when we have a room full of people here, and they're all looking to you all to give them some guidance on how you feel they should vote, what's your opinion on these articles? Do you support the Housing Commission's initiative to use some of these reserve funds to create something? That's what I want to know.
I do, and I think that the way that the money going, the housing gets added to the reserve fund, and then you put money into the reserve fund, and housing is one of the individual groups that can spend that money.
No, I understand that.
That's-
I just, as a citizen, want to know how to vote. So I'm going to be looking to you all I don't come to every meeting. Most people who come to a town meeting don't come to every select board meeting. They don't know everything that's going on. So we look to the board to guide us in making good decisions for the town. So
I think the sticky part is when we pitch something a certain way, in this case, the local option tax, the 1% was included or, adopted to offset the general fund. That was what we said we were doing with that money. And I think it's important to,
On some of the other meetings, it's gonna be hard for the public, I think, to take away from what they set aside to offset taxes. I think just adding it to a reserve, adding housing to a reserve fund and then adding more money to that reserve fund is gonna work better than asking the voters to take 50% of what they wanted to set aside.
it's
In
really
their minds,
interesting.
I think it's gonna work.
I think,
You're gonna
I
see it,
think
yeah.
so too.
It's a perception. It doesn't change anything. They're going to vote on either approach. I think that it's more likely to pass if it
It's
goes
just an appropriation.
as
Yeah.
like an
You add
appropriation.
housing
Flat, yeah.
to the fund and then you add an appropriation that's larger than last year. I think that's the easiest way to deal with that.
It's going to go however it goes, but that's kind of how
That's my
it
thought.
seems like it will
Yeah.
go.
That's how I feel about it too.
I wonder, and I keep circling back to this, I know, but I just wonder, because I also, if you say something, right, you're saying this is what it's for, and then you do it, and I really appreciate following through with what you say, but I wonder, when I voted, I didn't know it was going to be less than a penny,
You didn't know it was going to be what?
less than a penny. I mean, if I knew that when I voted, I would not have voted for it.
Do you know how
Now I've got to
pretty
pay
well
1% on all the things
What's
online,
that?
and
Yeah.
so going back to.
No, there's no sales tax.
Well, the
We don't have a
tax
sales
is the
tax.
big one.
But it's
Sales tax was voted
1%
down.
on the local option.
We have rooms, we have meals, and we have alcohol. Sales tax
I know.
failed. And that's the one that would have brought in about $300,000 a year.
Right, but the local options tax.
We don't have the local option 1% on sales.
You don't have.
We only have it on alcohol, rooms, and meals.
Okay.
That would be the big one that would have brought in like $200,000 to $300,000 a year, but people didn't like that idea.
So this 1% is supposed to offset the taxes at less than a penny.
It turned out to be a smaller number because the
You
sales
see where
tax.
I'm going? I feel like.
But that's what people voted for. Both
I
were,
think
everything
And
was
to some
included.
people, that might seem like a
Right,
lot.
circling back to what
You
Melissa's
had it pretty well
saying,
written out.
because they didn't know
I did, and I
what they were voting for.
You had it pretty well written out for each different one.
Yeah.
How it was going to affect the tax rate.
I think
Yeah.
people knew what they were voting against.
We
and
had
it
it
was
written out.
the 1% on
The
sales.
sales, they
That's
didn't
what
want.
they didn't want. And the original reason for it was because it was the one and only way for the town to recover any costs associated with the cannabis. And because everything else goes to the state, you know, it's like a fraction of 30% down to 1%, and then it's only 3/4 of that.
We get 70% of the local option tax.
So knowing what we know now and having some numbers, do you think it's like realistic to have this information when we're voting?
We had our best, the state doesn't give you information on this. That's the hard part. The state will not say,
They won't tell you
Hey,
who they're
next year-
collecting it from.
or this year you would have made this much. They didn't give you that information, we didn't have it. We
Right.
had to come
I
up with our
understand
best
that in
guess.
the past, just
We
like.
came up with our best guess on what, and Tina did the information off our best guess
Right.
for the tax rate. And showed the people that at the meeting.
And it got voted down.
And the rooms and meals, or no, rooms was already there, meals and alcohol got approved last year. Sales tax did not get approved. And the rooms and or the meals and alcohol, sorry, that was the small portion of anything you would have made off the 1%. The sales tax is where town would have made money off the 1% option tax. And that failed.
Yeah.
Sales failed 3 times, I believe.
Yeah. And, I mean, I can't speak for the board, but me personally, I think that's why we put it up 3 times already, because we felt like that was the one that made the most sense to generate extra money, to actually be a chunk of money that makes a
I think
difference.
it's complex, for sure.
Well, and when it gets voted on, then you know what people, you know, the temperature of the room is when something fails. It's like, you can't assume that they don't understand, but you.
So I even think, like, even by saying $20,000, or saying it, yeah, it's sticky. I think just knowing when I hear it's going to impact my taxes, like even a hypothetical or a guesstimate based on any kind of numbers is helpful. If there's some more information, I know there's a
I
quarter.
just texted you my presentation.
Do you think it's, Tina, I don't know, is it okay to address you about this? Do you think it's realistic, those numbers going forward, like that quarter? Do you think?
I have no idea. I don't know how. I've tried to research on the Vermont Department of Taxes website. It's impossible.
Yeah, they could be, like with alcohol, we have so few vendors of alcohol in the town. Under a certain number, they won't even provide information in their database to the public. So we don't even know, we couldn't do any kind of estimates at all when it comes to alcohol. Rooms is actually an expanding number because more and more we're able to register short-term rentals.
Yeah.
So that's going to be building itself. But we're pretty accurate, I think, with meals. You know, we had accurate numbers.
I just got a note from Patty, who must be observing. She said that you might be missing the key point of the purpose of the reserve fund is to save for larger projects like phase 2 wastewater that you can't fund with an annual line.
We're still talking about the reserve fund. We're not talking about putting it into your housing commission budget. That's in 1 year. That's you get 1 year, you have to spend it. We're talking about putting it into the reserve fund.
Right.
It would just be a specific
different ways
number
of
as
approaching
opposed to
So
percentage.
what I'm proposing here is you would still leave the thing that add housing to that reserve fund. You would completely scratch this one about the 1% and the percentage of the 1%. And then you would just go to the reserve fund itself, and we've been putting $5,000 in for the last couple of years since we established
We have
this reserve
50,000,
fund.
yeah.
You up that to 20,000.
So you
And
get
now
rid
the
of,
housing's involved, that fund is growing still.
so you
It's
would
just
get,
getting rid of the 1% option tax that people are gonna look at, that was supposed to save us taxes, and maybe I don't want it.
you'd get
I
rid
think
of Articles
that
14 and
money's a lot
15.
too much.
14 and 15 would go away.
Okay,
That's what we're
14
saying.
and 15. Yeah. Larry, go ahead.
As I've been starting to understand the budget process a little more, being in my first year, my question kind of goes to what is the Housing Commission looking for? If they needed an annual budget,
They have
Is
an
it
annual
too-
budget.
okay, so if they wanted to increase that, is it too late to do that? If we
Yes.
support this,
It's too
and we're
late.
saying that this maybe isn't the route, then is it reserve money you want for projects, or is it more annual operational funds? And are there other ways to go? Because I agree, if I was a Londonderry voter and I voted for that to be spent a certain way, and it got changed before it even really got to be used that way, I wouldn't be thrilled about that. So if there's another way to support this program that fits kind of the normal operating venue, and again, I don't know if it's reserve fund, or if it's budget, or if it's both down the road.
Well, they're looking for a reserve fund to gradually get a bigger chunk of change.
And for larger projects,
Yeah.
because it's a shared fund, if you know, if the groups.
And you
work
wanted it,
together.
you don't want it in the budget, you want it in the reserve fund so it doesn't go away.
And things get earmarked when they go to the reserve fund, right?
Yeah, well,
No.
no,
No.
they can, people can come and ask the select board to use them for something.
The biggest difference being that the reserve fund is there year over. and
Yeah,
the
it doesn't go away.
Budget line item goes away at the end of that fiscal year.
Certain reserve funds are earmarked for certain things, like the building reserve fund is just for building maintenance and upkeep.
Okay.
But this fund, if you add housing to it, then it's housing, economic development, what else would you involve in? It's not really-
Support municipal efforts to plan, promote, and implement economic recovery, revitalization, and development efforts in Londonderry.
And then you would add housing.
Yeah.
This was started at early COVID.
I like the idea of doing away with the percentage and putting the money in the reserve fund.
Yeah.
And it's accessible.
I think it would have a better chance of passing.
I personally feel if you put a solid number on it, that people are gonna be more apt to go after that than a percentage.
Yep.
So what do you
Well, it would, if there was a percentage, you wouldn't have to have that other vote ever again. The money going into the reserve fund. You're kind of done with that whole issue. You won't see Article 16 anymore.
But then on her, because it's gonna change every single year, you're trying to do, your
Yeah.
tax rate is gonna be helped.
Yeah,
Well, it's going to be no different. Right now, we don't know what it's going to be. So it'll be half of what you don't know it's going to be.
yeah.
I feel like going the number.
But it's
route is
easier to
better.
manipulate in the budget than as a percentage.
It's just different.
I think you're gonna have a better chance to get the money into that reserve fund by completely getting rid of a percentage of the 1% option tax. I think that's gonna kill you right there.
So if
Too confusing.
the 25,000 is, where do we see that at the town meeting, in the town report? Where is that?
That'll just be what the number
It'll be an
reported
article.
to the reserve fund.
But right now, it says 5,000.
Okay.
And you could stand up at town meeting and say, I move that we increase that to 20,000, whatever the number might be. That's legitimate.
Why wouldn't you just change it today?
I think we're just gonna
Yeah.
change it
And
to
the
I think we just change it today.
We all know how well it goes to change a number on town meeting day.
Yeah.
Well, and somebody,
Out loud.
if we change it to 20 now, somebody could still vote to change it, but at
Correct.
least it's
Yes, but
where
at
we
least
think
there's
it
a
should
number.
be, and we're not
Yes.
anticipating it.
At least they've had time to read it in the annual book
Yes.
before they come.
Yep.
It's not just throwing it at
So the big time client is gonna be very thankful of us. If we
Yeah.
get rid of the 1%,
Yeah,
the
I-
50%,
Trying to
1%.
explain that is going to be complicated. I mean, just based on
Given that we
this
don't have any
conversation.
solid numbers,
Right, and people don't vote for things that they don't understand.
no,
If
they
you
don't.
if you give them a solid number, and then give them like what you wanna do with it,
Yep,
that's gonna translate a lot easier than
Yep.
So,
I
trying to
think so.
explain
I
percentages.
have to ask for it
do you,
every year.
so the board,
It'd be making an
Well,
amendment.
no, every year we just have a certain amount that goes into this one reserve fund. If not housing asking for it, It's that amount is what we're putting in the reserve fund.
It's the same for highways and everything. The number doesn't change unless we change it.
And if it ends up that we would like to adjust that in future years, that can be done on an annual basis.
Yeah, we just change the number in the town warning. If that's what the board approves of.
Yeah.
It doesn't become an appropriation every year?
No,
Okay.
reserve funds are not the
You
appropriation.
don't have to ask for it every year.
Reserve fund is there. It's just how much you put
Well,
into
you
that
do have to
reserve.
ask for the appropriation.
No, you have to ask. It's an option.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we have, that's
It would be like the highway fund, the
But housing
highway
commission
reserve
doesn't
equipment.
specifically have to ask anymore. Housing is part of this fund. We say we're gonna put $20,000 into this fund every year going forward. Housing is always there in that fund. It's just cleaner. Go ahead.
I agree with it being clear. I have just one more question. Can I clarify, the reason you're not putting it all in the reserve fund is because you think folks in town would prefer to have the less than a penny reduce their tax rate? Is that right?
That's what they voted for, and when you bring up taking something away from reducing the tax rate,
Even though it's less than a
it's
penny?
not gonna help.
Yes,
Yes.
the one note, yep.
Yeah, that's not
You-
gonna
I
help.
just,
We
I
fought
wanted
over-
to be really clear.
But
We
yeah,
have fought over
Okay.
$3,000.
Okay.
yeah, last year, town meeting,
Okay.
the longest discussion was on a $3,500 item,
Yeah,
40
So
minutes.
it's like less than a penny
yeah.
that we're not like well-intending something to do a larger social good for a housing crisis. Just,
But that less than a penny is going to reduce taxes, and that's all people see.
That's what they hear.
well, I don't know if they're hearing it the way they should. That's just my opinion, but
People
I
don't-
hear you all saying that. I hope
People
people
don't
watching at
understand.
home hearing you all speak on behalf of them. So you are the decision makers.
People
This-
don't understand.
That is the opinion I hear a lot when I'm out in public.
Yeah,
I will say that.
yeah.
I think that's wild. I mean, I can even understand $10. Like, you could even do
A lot of-
something with that, but less than a penny.
A lot of people just want a solid number. They don't
Less
want-
than a
Yes.
penny.
And people
Good
don't
job.
understand how the tax rate works, I don't think. I've tried to explain it to people, and people just glaze over
I
it,
just
so.
can't imagine on any planet where you said to me, we can allocate this chunk of money towards something good for the town, like housing, or you can save less than a penny. What are you gonna do? Oh, I'll vote for the less than, like, that seems insane.
Well, last year, put it this way, last year we had a vote for rooms and alcohol, and we were saying we could get about $50,000 or so to offset the budget to reduce taxes. Then right after that, and that passed pretty much unanimously, there was barely even talk about that. Next article, sales tax. But we said we were gonna make $250 or more to offset taxes. Failed miserably.
Mess with people's hands.
So I mean, right there, you can never tell what people are gonna do at town meeting. That one, the first one passed, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, smooth sailing. Next one came, hey, I'm going.
Well, and
I know what I'm saying.
you can't manipulate or guess or anything the way that people want to vote. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a vote and it's people's choice, and if everybody just draws a line, that they're going to vote a certain way when it comes to a certain thing, that's how they vote, and you can't question the way anyone votes. And I think the only thing that we can do is,
What if you can't question it?
well, I mean, not with any validity. I mean, I wouldn't, when it comes to any vote, I think that I would want my vote respected as much as I would respect anyone
I
else's.
think it's not a question as much as interpret before.
Right, I guess that's what I mean. I think that our only thing here is really just looking at the way that you see things go in general and what are like hot buttons for people, and I think it's important
Like,
to.
who's gonna interpret that the lowest amount, the small amount to offset taxes is gonna pass with no problems? And then right after that, there's one that's gonna make a difference on your tax bill. And that one failed miserably. Who's gonna think that's gonna happen? I didn't, but that's what happened. Nancy, go ahead.
Appreciate your input and your perspective. And so are you considering an additional 20,000 to the 5,000 or 15,000 to the 5,000?
You can do anything. It's up to us to put that on.
So would the housing commission have a recommendation?
Would you have a preference?
Well, they were talking about
We
25.
were looking for the 25.
We could throw 25 in there and
It's
see
like
what
25.
So would you want to be getting rid of Articles 14 and 15 and then increasing or changing the amount of
Yeah,
Article 16?
that's what I'd be looking
You would make me very happy.
to do. Oh, we're gonna make Doug very happy too, I guarantee.
Yeah.
And the town people can still amend that number to that reserve fund, but having that reserve fund be established already, you're gonna have a lot better chance of at least money going into that reserve fund, period.
Right, and I'm sure we'll have somebody there who will explain all the wonderful ways that reserve fund can be spent and how little it would affect your taxes.
Yeah, I think,
Baby steps.
Yeah,
yeah, I think just getting rid of
They-
that 1%.
it won't even be a
tax
question.
Is gonna go a long way to having this be just fine. Everybody agree on that?
I'm in agreement.
I do.
All right, so.
Hold 1 second, I need to catch up.
So we'll have to make an amendment to that motion. With the deletion of Articles 13 and 15.
what number draft is this now?
Changing
This is going to be the final.
reserve fund to 2.5.
So are you, as a group, are you saying you want me to get rid of Article 14
Yes.
and 15?
Yes. And then,
Those are gone.
16 to whatever it would be at this point, to 25,000 instead of 5.
16? 16 is for Fenway Park.
I think you're-
No,
we have
we
to
moved
an
it, we
amendment.
moved it up.
We moved that up, right?
It's switched to 12.
And we would
So
have to change the language.
Get rid of the words "in the event that the vote in Article 15 is in the negative."
Yep.
Yeah,
So it just starts off, shall the town vote?
25,000.
Yep. I think that is gonna be your cleanest way of getting stuff.
Oops, just made it 225.
that's
Hate
very
when that
generous.
And Article 13, adding housing is still in there.
Yes.
Yes.
That's still, yeah.
I think having it written in there like that shows our support, because we're opposing this number and amendment.
Got it.
Shucks.
Yeah. Well, I can make it larger font.
Yeah, you could. It's gonna be 3 pages no matter
You have
what.
that one written down, Taylor?
Yeah.
Well, we just made it to 3 pages.
No, it was already 3 pages and
Spilling
now
over.
your signatures are all on the third.
All right, we can make that motion. Anybody know how to make that motion?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
the process of writing it, but
I mean, I would do it just based on looking at,
need
Yes.
with the amendment.
And this would be, this one would be Article 14 now. Okay, 16 would be Article 14.
yes.
The 25,001 is Article 14.
Okay.
All right.
Are you going for it, Jim, or you want me to take it?
You can go, I'm
Increase the signs.
still writing it, so you can take it out.
All right, pay attention, see if this makes any sense to
Welcome back, Taylor.
So,
anyone.
I move to approve with the following amendments. Under Article 3, adding South Londonderry Library trustee for a term of 3 years.
Okay, I don't think you need to do any of that. I think you just need to approve the warning as it's been
As
discussed.
Yeah.
Approved it as amended.
Okay.
Well, it was just in a draft form. See, I would just stick with what you got, approve and sign the warning.
It's just a draft form, so.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I move to approve and sign the warnings for the annual town meeting scheduled for March 4th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'll print that off right now.
Moving on to item 10B, review and approve proposed fiscal year 2026 budget.
so I made the changes that we talked about at the last meeting, but I don't remember what they were.
Look at the minutes.
And then we realized that, as coming up on the agenda, that we will have bond payments of interest due in 2020, in fiscal year 26. We also have a payment due in fiscal year 25. So I have added, it is in debt service.
You know, I had a thought, maybe the board should skip ahead to that decision on the bond term. See if they nail that down.
That
Then
makes
these are
more
more
sense
valid.
to me.
Okay,
What's that?
That makes more sense to me.
11A.
okay, then let's do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that.
So
Probably.
we will table 10B for a second and move on to,
11A.
It's in new business, I think.
move on to 11A. Right?
Yes, 11A.
Town office project, determine bond repayment terms.
So they gave us a couple of two different options. One's for 20 years and one's for 30 years. And
There's a vast difference in interest.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
difference.
so I think my recommendation would be to do the 20-year.
It's about,
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
about $436,000 more in interest.
Yeah,
Right, 30 years goes to 936,000 and versus 594,000.
and these may not be the exact rates, but
Yeah, the
They'll
rates
be
will change
close.
between now and the next month or
But
two.
it's going to be substantially more the longer term.
yes.
Yeah,
So that would be my recommendation. We just,
Go 20 years.
but
in the interest of
interesting.
the people who are going to come after us.
Right.
Just one thing to think about is like the first larger payments, you know, I'd say 2027 for the 20 year, you're looking at 116,000 versus 99,000 for the 30 year.
Drop in the bucket.
I know, just saying,
Yeah,
that way
yeah.
it's 15 grand or whatever it is, so
Yeah.
just something to think about.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Definitely makes a lot of sense. We want to make that one.
I move to seek a bond payment repayment term of 20 years from the Vermont Bond Bank relative to the $1.3 million bond for the town office renovations.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now
All
we'll
that
go
said,
back to
we'll go back to 10B.
So, on page 6, I added in the debt schedule. There will be 2 payments which total a little over $52,000.
Plus we have an interest payment that happens this year in May,
Which is about,
which was not anticipated,
15,
15
yeah.
grand. So.
Is that the only changes to the budget?
yep, that was the only change.
And what's that bring us to for tax rate?
It brought us up to 64 cents, 64.13. I mean, That's all depending on the grand list too, and I anticipate that the grand list is gonna go up a little bit once he gets all of his permit work done. So, what's that? Yeah. I won't know till, July 1 probably. Yep, it is cited.
Oh, the 10B.
10B.
We have the right amount here.
Yep, that's the right amount there.
I move to approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 expense budget in the amount of $3,150,324, subject to town meeting approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
10C, consider resignations from public bodies. You guys want to talk about process? Do you want to wait till Martha's at the next meeting, or?
I think we decided that we were all set with what we were doing right now.
So we're all good?
Yeah, the other individual said they were gonna write a letter.
Good.
So we've completed all the interviews except for one. We still have one left to do. And then we'll start working on a report to be presented at a future meeting.
Sounds good.
And thank you to everybody that participated in the interviews and gave their thoughtful opinion.
You guys for all you did?
Yeah.
Good. Moving on to 10D, discuss village wastewater committee. So this is coming up because the wastewater committee has missed multiple dates for meeting minutes to be posted to the website. And this is not the first time, unfortunately. And it needs to be brought to the board's attention. I mean, I don't know what the best route to go here is.
Oh,
I know I've asked, I sent an email to the entire wastewater department, telling them that their minutes were in violation of open meeting laws, they have not had minutes in since here. Shane did find a couple minutes. They were over a month overdue though.
Yeah, they were sent to Tina, myself, and Ally, and we.
But they were a month overdue.
They were a
by the
month
time they
overdue,
were
yeah.
sent to you.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is just this is an issue. But I don't know what the best
well, I think
way to do it is, but we gotta do something.
I think one thing we can do is try to reach out to the chair and try maybe sit down and discuss how we can help them, or
Maybe the committee as a whole, so that they could pull together a plan for reorganization.
It is on the agenda, they're meeting tomorrow night, that is an agenda item, to talk about the committee.
So
And it's
maybe we
structure.
just
maybe we can request them
the
to,
results of that meeting.
whatever they come up with all that meeting, maybe we can request them to meet with us at a future meeting, or to, like I said, try to discuss how we can help them, what do they need.
I know, we have one vacancy that we've been trying to fill for the longest time, so if there's anybody out there who wants to be on the committee,
It's just at the end of the day, we are accountable for them, so we have to figure out how we can help and
Support
support them.
them to
So,
comply.
This seems like a good opportunity to talk about Zoom. If they can get an AI assistant and just, the minutes will be there as soon as the meeting is over. Larry, I know does the minutes for that committee, and he is a volunteer, and he's so thoughtful and careful and so thorough, but I suspect that takes a lot of time, based on the minutes I've seen Larry produce. It is so easy to get an AI assistant, and it will summarize the entire meeting, give you a transcript, and no one has to do anything. And there's free options for that.
I think they have the budget.
The chair of the
I
planning
think
commission
you
has that on
probably
their
have it
phone.
as part of your Microsoft. Oh, they use
Use Zoom
neighborhood
neighborhood
connections.
connections.
Yeah, I don't.
The chair of the
Another
planning
thing
commission
that
has
we
an
want
app
to
on
talk
their
about.
phone, they can do it right from,
What?
Chair of Planning Commission has an app.
has an app on their phone that they can do the AI minutes right from.
Yeah, it goes right in the meeting. It's like
Yeah.
another person in the meeting. It's AI in the meeting. I mean, it was solve a problem really fast.
I do believe it's definitely a solution worth looking into for not just that committee, but all meetings. Because we do need to make it more accessible for people that aren't able to attend. Because people do want to participate, but kids, obligations, keep them from coming, so. That's one thing I do hear a lot of in
And
communities, we gotta try
might I
to
add that
expand.
the minutes only have to be a draft to begin with. That's all that needs to be posted.
Within
So,
5 days, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they don't have to be complete, they can be, capture the essence.
So you have to capture the essence of the meeting
Yeah.
in the whole. Whether you-
The other pro to using Zoom, you can just, it can go right to YouTube, so you're not storing it. You can just, and people could watch it at any time. They don't have to wait till GNAT figures their stuff out, or like, it just goes right to YouTube, and you can watch it.
GNAT, we have a dedicated network to GNAT now.
And it's live streaming
Only for
to
that.
YouTube.
It's live streaming now. This was set up by our IT guy. If they use
Is this
this,
something that happened in the last week?
if they use this one, no.
Oh, I
Well, it doesn't work on-
Sometimes Bruce has not been able to get on this. He has not had the password. I gave the password, it's working flawlessly.
Right, but you still can't participate via GNAT, and I would have loved to have stayed home tonight, to be honest with you. And then Patty also wanted to attend, we both call a phone number and get put in the bowl. Like,
I think Zoom would.
it's a
Eventually, we're
huge
gonna have
pain
to,
point, and I will, this is the hill that I'm gonna, like, it's,
I think eventually we're gonna have to expand to something like that. I mean, it's great having GNAT, but having that other source where people can interact that aren't here.
And we're gonna have to do something else besides that, and we're gonna have to hire someone to do the Zoom portion.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to address, but.
So we're gonna have to put a new town employee. I was like,
I know, it's just something we are gonna have to, because we are.
next year on the town morning, we're gonna have to put a new town employee on.
we don't need another time.
I don't think we need it.
I think we do.
You just get,
Who's gonna do it?
well.
I mean, we gotta put it out there and see.
It depends on how you set it up. If, you know, I think it's a conversation. If there's no internet issues, you can use AI. You can set up your meeting so that if you're gonna go online, maybe there's a dedicated time that you can speak. Maybe you can't speak as freely as you can if you're in this room, and that seems reasonable. You can go on a chat. You know,
Who's gonna watch this chat?
I don't know.
That's gonna be the new employee. Who's gonna admit everybody to the room throughout the whole meeting? That's gonna be a new employee.
Maybe, or a volunteer, or
Well, no one's ever stepped up to volunteer for it, so.
well, I think it's, I'm not saying those pain points aren't real, but I think if you don't have the conversation, if you don't start somewhere, there is a reason, there is a law to give everyone access. Like, I think you all are circumnavigating it. in a
No,
way-
they're not, actually.
Well, I don't think.
You have to request every single meeting. That's the law.
I know, so
So
if I
how are we
requested.
circumnavigating
Well,
it?
I don't think when it said dial in, I think the intention, in my opinion, I think the intention of the law was.
No one's
that-
even requested it yet.
I requested it today and didn't get it, and Patty requested it too, and she said she didn't want to be in a bowl because she couldn't hear anything the last time she was on a meeting, actually.
I didn't get a request for any Zoom or anything.
I requested it today. I don't know, Shane, if you
Shane,
got it or
did you
not,
request
but I did request it today.
I did see an email. I didn't, it's a holiday, I didn't get in until 3 o'clock to prep for this meeting.
Like I said, I don't know if you saw it, but I did request it. And Patty did request it, and she wanted to be here tonight. She was texting Nancy because she wanted to be here, but she didn't want to be in the bowl. And then it's like a personal self. This is going to be something I'm going to continue to advocate for. I think I've said everything I needed to say.
Yeah. Listen.
I know that I've said something in the past when I was on the board, that I think it's important that the board, as the guiding light for all of the committees, that they actually take the time to give them an orientation, so to speak, so that they fully understand what their responsibilities are to the select board and to the community. And if you have to do it every year, then you have to do it every year. You could have all the chairs power. I don't know how it can be done, but I think it is very important that everyone fully understands what the responsibilities are as far as legal-wise when it comes to reporting out on meetings. And I know you're going to say, everybody already knows, same when Jim sat on the board for the first time. I hope somebody sat down and gave him an orientation, because nobody sat me down when I got on the board and gave me an orientation.
I think that
You
that's
can't hit the ground running if you're not made fully aware of what the expectations are.
That's where the opportunity is, in my perspective, is when someone new comes to a committee or a board or anything, that individual, rather than, the whole entire board have to do it annually, if some of them do know, then the new members get a packet or a link or something. Like, as a new select board member, I went to
The LCT training.
a training program, that gives you like the ABCs of stuff. And I think that those opportunities are there, but maybe we create, something more,
User-friendly.
and more pointed to say like, you're new and here's a list of things that you need to brush up on, or, here's all the information that you need to be a member of this committee or board or whatever.
We gave that to the planning commission.
I think that's the opportunity, is for the,
Definitely
new
an
person.
opportunity for new committee members to feel welcome and to be able to hit the ground running. Absolutely.
Kathleen, does VLCT still provide select board training? Like
Yes.
soon after March, right? Yeah.
Right at the end of March.
It's usually a webinar of some sort, or in person.
I
So
think
VLCT
I think
does.
there's a lot to be said for being shoulder to shoulder with your new board members and getting a lay of the land in your, yes, the VLCT training is incredibly helpful, but there's something to be said for somebody to maybe take you under their wing and to guide you into a level of comfortability. And I'm not just talking about the select board, I'm talking about committees in general.
I totally agree, and I think like circling back to, if we're gonna call out Larry, I'm hearing that you're saying this has been a thing that's happening, right? And
Oh, it's happened for the last 2 years.
Right.
Believe me, I've had to talk to them many times.
so like maybe what's the expectation? Keep that, like, Larry, how can we help you? Larry, can someone else be doing it, right? Like, I'm hearing that Larry, who knows open meeting law, who knows what he's doing, can't achieve this goal. He misses it over and over and over and over again. Maybe someone should help Larry achieve his goal.
I think some of that falls back on us. Ultimately it does, but within the committee, I think that if they, I don't know if there's somebody else on the committee that is recognizing the same problem, or if they're all doing their own thing. We're not
That's why
necessarily.
There's
think
someone
that-
from Wyndham Regional, like, is this in their purview, right, on that committee now, or no? I don't
We
know
do have
what we're
a
doing.
project manager, Matt Bachler, who is working with the committee on project-related stuff. He's not charged with
Okay.
working on,
Gotcha.
compliance with state law and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's, that committee, it's good that the select board's talking about it now. It's been recognized, and it's something that needs to be dealt with, and this committee is vitally important, for the future of this community. We need another person on there, and they need to, be able to work actively and successfully with each other. And I think they recognize it as a committee, and it's on their agenda to discuss tomorrow night how to revigorate the committee. And again, would love to have someone else participate as well. So there have been times they have not been able to get quorum because of certain things, and they've not been able to get the agendas out within the 48 hours or 24 hours, depending on the type of meeting. So it's been a real problem, having meeting attendance.
Sounds like we have a plan going forward. Now we move on to item 11, new business. We already did 11A, so we're on to 11D. Executive session, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee to 1 VSA 313A3.
I move to enter executive session to consider the appointment or evaluation of a public employee pursuant to Title I VSA, Section 313, A3, and invite Town Administrator Shane O'Keefe to attend the executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
So,
Came out
one second here.
7:54.
Are you ready? Okay, 7:54.
You recording? Yep. Came out of executive session at 7:55.
And I would move to authorize the chair to execute a contract for part-time employment with Shane O'Keefe as Assistant Town Administrator and Project Coordinator through June 30th, 2025.
I would say after town meeting.
Yeah.
For a period from town meeting through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Or beyond current employment or something.
There you go, beyond current employment. Does that work?
Yeah. Works for me. You want-
Do you want me to re-say that? Or you got it?
Maybe just re-say it since we are being recorded.
Okay. I move to authorize the chair to execute a contract beyond current employment for part-time employment with Shane O'Keefe as Assistant Town Administrator and Project Coordinator through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
I don't know if I inserted that in the right spot, but
That works for me.
it's in there.
And what's the last one?
I moved to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.